Hey subscribers, Oliver Banks here. I don't know how often you guys look at my channel, but I'm going to be making more content. Going to be having animation, going to be having art tutorials, going to be having a segment called Redraw, to where you guys can send me art or send me suggestions and I redraw it. It's going to be a lot of good stuff on the channel. Just need you guys' support. If you guys watch the channel, just keep tuning in. Check out this video that I'm posting right now. Let me know what you think about it. Like on it, comment on it. Just let me know what you guys think. I want to make it a lot more interactive. So guys, with your guys' support, that'll make things happen a lot quicker than usual. So thank you guys. I appreciate you subscribing to my channel and enjoy the video. Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. I usually don't do these tutorials, but I felt the need to go ahead and show you guys like the type of work that I do. A lot of people ask me about the clean line art style that I do, and basically just, how do I do that? And I'm just I did this picture a couple of months ago, and I just decided to use it as kind of like a reference to the stuff that I do. And so as you can see, I used two layers for this. I drew the blue background on one layer, and that's pretty much my sketchy layer. It's still kind of like clean line art, but it just takes some getting used to if you're a beginner to kind of start off just drawing clean lines like that. Even with your sketch face, it's a little bit hard. Usually I'll do like a sketchy kind of streak until I can get the line, but I'm so used to doing things the way I do it now, as far as like clean line art, I can get a smooth line the first time around. And I really don't try to get it correct from the start anyway, because I know I'm going to clean it up in the line art phase. So the blue line art is just my sketchy phase. Like I say, it looks clean as the line art, and that's just because I like to get my shapes filled out before I get started. And so what you're looking at right now is the line art phase, to where I'm using the black to go over the sketch phase. And as you can see, it's sped up a little bit, but as you can see, I try to get the lines as clean and as direct as possible. And pretty much the only way you can do that is just a lot of practice. Just giving a lot of practice and going over your work with different photos and different pictures and stuff. You can grab. A lot of people say that tracing is bad, but you could also trace things as well. That's how I got my start as a little kid. So I was like 5 years old tracing comic book covers and stuff. So, and what that taught me was how to do anatomy, how to get these lines straight. Basically how to form and shape an arm, a leg, a torso, a head. All of those things go with it. So, the practicing of the anatomy is a huge thing when it comes to art. A lot of people skip over those things, but you really can't skip over it because they see some artists probably exaggerate body parts and say, well, that anatomy is not totally correct, but I can guarantee you that they learn how to correctly do anatomy first before they pretty much break those rules. And so what I'm basically saying is that, learn anatomy first, then start to break the rules of anatomy if once you get more comfortable. But there's really no one way or right way to do something, but you always want to have fundamentals first before you pretty much jump into anything. So with this picture, I decided to do fan art, and a lot of people I know it's a big controversy when it comes to fan art, but I believe in fan art because it's pretty much, to me, showing respect and showing appreciation. It's a form of appreciation to characters that you love, and I see nothing wrong with doing fan art. It also teaches you design as well. That's a lot of ways by me doing certain types of fan art. I looked at, okay, this is why they put this line this way. This is why they put this line that way. And so it helps, to further you in your art career, I believe, in your design career. All of those things is beneficial to the type of things that you do. So with here, I decided to go with Spider Gwen, and instead of creating the original Spider Gwen, I decided to first of all make her a black girl, and second of all design her body and her body type and her hairstyle a little bit different than the original. And so I feel like there's degrees in fan art. You could straight copy the character. You could put your own spin on it. You can draw the character, put your own spin on it, or you can do a whole nother version, which is like turn them into a robot, or turn them into an animal if they're a person, certain things like that. So there's different degrees of fan art that you can do. I decided here to kind of put my own spin on it. So that is the type that I usually go with. But as far as fan art, I know, like I say, there's some plus sides and, there's some downsides to it as well. But if you keep it fun and friendly and do something that's, somewhat original as well, I believe it'll take you, far with doing it. It's not for everybody, but for me, I choose to have fun with my art, and one of the things that I love doing is creating different types of fan art. So at this point, I'm going to be doing the eye, and I use just different shapes. I usually draw it in, but this to me is like a cleaner and crisper way of doing the eyes. A lot of people ask me how do I get it that way, and so I just use shapes, use circles. I color in one. I do one for the pupil. I do one for the eye color. I also do one for the lighting, as you'll see in a few minutes. This is a pupil, and I use the same one, and I just rotate it. And then once I get done with one eye, I just duplicate that eye. But at this point, I got to do the highlights, doing the highlights. And then I do the top shadow. Then that's the eye. And so I duplicate that as I save the different versions of the eye. That way I can always come back to it. If I do something wrong, I duplicate it, flip it, and then I size the eye. And so that's a different technique that I use for the eye. Okay, now's the color. I use reference photos. I just pull them off of Google, and I color dip it, and then I just put them on a different layer, a separate layer. That way I won't have the distraction of the reference photos on the canvas. And so I just get the basic colors, and then from there I choose my own colors. But at this point, I think I forgot to do the webbing, and so but what I did is I put the webbing on a different layer, and you'll see later why I put it on a different layer, because with the pictures and the reference photos I saw, the webbing is a different color from the suit. And so instead of me having to go and color it in individually, I separate it. That way I can just color the whole thing at once. But here I'm starting on the color. I always change the background from white to a darker color. That way I can get everything filled in. I wouldn't be able to see the white fill in without having that background colored a different color. so that way I can make sure every part is filled in when I do the base color. And I use one layer for this also. I only use one layer for my base color, and then once I finish the base color, I start on the shadows. But at this point, I'm just coloring in the base colors. Also, when it comes to the base colors with Procreate, you really don't have to shade in, as you can see with the shoes and with what I'm doing right here with the band on the head. They have a fill in option, and I'm filling in right now at the moment. And whenever you have an open space with the line art, you have to kind of erase like I'm doing right here with this brown color. But I find the fill tool is very quick. It's not time consuming, and unless I just feel like coloring, because I have those days to where I just feel like coloring in manually, I will do it. But if I'm in a rush, or sometimes I do get in a rush, I actually just do the color fill. At this point, I'm doing highlights and lowlights and the highlights and shadows in the eyes. And now I'm creating a layer for the shadow that I'm going to be putting in. And so I start with the shadow on the white. With this, I'll show in a different tutorial, but I usually get my base color, which is white, and then I lower the color grade on the color wheel chart. And once I lower that color grade, it gives me a darker version of my base color, which is white. And so I just add that. Depending on how dark I want it and how radiant I want the color to look, I'll darken it twice as dark. But usually I'll go one layer of darkness. But here I think this is like a 2 layer of darkness. That way you can actually see the shadow rather than seeing a light cast on that white. Usually with the lighter colors I go darker. Okay, now still coloring in the white part. Usually with the black colors, you have to get a little bit creative because you can't, there's nothing darker than black, so you can't really put a shadow on black. So when we get to the black part, you will see that you have to represent it with a shine. You have to represent I'm trying to find the word for it, but you have to represent the contrast in color with a shiny coat rather than a shadowy coat. And so this right here on the white, you can see the contrast, you can see the shadow, you can see the foreground and foreground within the colors. And so with this maroon, I found the exact color that I needed, and I'm putting it in the shadow. And like with anything, as far as with color, you have to make sure that you find a light source and make sure that it's a realistic light source, because there can be all types of different light sources, but to get something to look correct, you have to find the right light source. And I think I chose the above light source. See, this is where I said I was going to come back to it, where I had the line art on a different plane, on a different layer, and now I'm just whitening it in. And I don't have to go over any other line art in order to do it. It's just a real simple color in, lock the layer, and then color. You have to kind of prep beforehand the things that you're going to do, because once you run into this problem, it's going to take you a while to slowly get that color in without messing up the whole picture. Same thing with this. I didn't lock the layer. I didn't choose a different layer for this, so I'm having to carefully color these lines in order not to have every line become this white line. And the reason for me doing this right here is because of the black color. And like I said, you can't really see that line art. And so now you can see the line art, but it's too white. It stands out too much. And so what I'm doing is thinning out the line art, but you'll see that the white is still too bright. It's still too shiny of a color. And so from there, I'm just examining it. And what you do is you figure out that, hey, what's the lighter color from black, and then you choose gray. So, and I choose like a grayish blue. That way you can still see the line art, but it blends more with the black color, and it doesn't stand out as much as that white. And it's all about, trial and error to where you can see what looks good, what doesn't look good. Because I could have used that white and it could have looked, amazing. But with this, how it looks now, it looks much more, pleasing to the eyesight when you look at it now. So now it's time to color the face. You want to get those shadows correctly. Like I say, my light source is above the head, and so you want to make sure that all the shadows are correctly. I forgot the inside of the eyes, but you want to make sure all the shadows are placed correctly, because if not, then it's going to look awkward with the placement of the shadows, and it's kind of a hard thing. So you want to go under the nose because the light source is above. You want to go under the lip. You want to go above the eye because there's a dip right above the eye to where it casts a shadow. And you want to do, since her hair is puffy, you want to do a shadow within the hairline, and definitely under the neck. With a lot of the things that you draw, you want to make sure every stroke, every color, everything you do kind of makes sense. And if it really doesn't make sense, it's not going to work. You're going to look at the picture, it's like, man, there's something wrong with this. And that's because most of the things that you do might not make sense. And so right now, I'm doing the lighting, and you want to go the opposite is what I said as far as with the shadow. You want to go above the base color. You want to go above the base color. You want to go up a color to get that lighting. And right here is something that I do when it comes to black as well. Again, I put a shine on it. And so what you do is you use your soft brush, and you use your magic wand. But in Procreate, it's the third option at the top from gallery. You use that option. And what you do with that is that you make these ripples, and they're almost like grades of, showing like the grade of hair almost. And you want to lightly try to shade this in, because if you do it too dark, it won't look realistic. It'll look like she has like metallic hair or something like that. But you want to do it to where, it's very light. Right now, it's not looking too good. So, and I back off a little bit, and then I assess the picture. And then if it's not looking as good as I want it to look, then I restart it. And so you want to basically make this the hair. You want to make it as if you're looking at individual pieces of her hair. And to use that soft brush, it takes a little bit of practice to be able to use that soft brush correctly, because you want it to fit everything you're doing. See, I didn't really like how that looked. I like how the ones that I did on this right hand side look, and so I want to get that effect, that same effect. And it just takes practice. That's all. Because I didn't do it right the first time either. So now that I kind of got my rhythm going, I'm just I'm flowing with it now. And don't worry about the pressure that you put on, because I said do it really lightly. But if you are heavy-handed and you kind of put that shading in there really dark, don't worry about that, because you can always go to your opacity and bring the opacity level down. And that's what I'm doing right now. Bringing the opacity level down, that way it won't look as bright. Because you want it to show, but you don't want it to overpower that black. You want it to look like a faint lighting choice. Look, always kind of use yourself for reference as well. Get in areas to where there's a lot of shadow, there's a lot of light, and when the light bounces off your skin, you can take a look at your skin. In the light, when the light bounces off your skin, it's bright, but it's not shining like a light. And so you want to take that into consideration when you do these lighting challenges. You want to make sure that it's bright, but it's not light bright. There's a small reflection. It's a white reflection, but it's not to where it's giving off its own light. You want to do it to where it looks like a light source is bouncing off of it rather than it's giving off its own light. So that's a tip with the lighting whereas the lighting is concerned. Seeing with this, it's a tedious process, but it pays off in the end, because it makes the pants area, or that lower half area, looks like it's a shiny suit. And it just looks cool. Looks really, really good. So now for the shadow, for the shoes, same process. Rinse, repeat, do the same stuff over. Make sure your lighting is in the correct spots. Make sure that you don't forget anything. Just make sure everything is in there. And this may not be practical, the lighting, the shadow choice that I'm choosing right now. But when I zoom back, it looks good. And it looks as though the hair is 3D. And so that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you do things that may not be practical, but looks good. Right now, I want to make sure that the eye area is kind of like glossy and shiny. And so what I did, I just put an overlay of white on the eye. And so now, I think I wasn't really feeling how thick those lines were. And so I went back over it and was like, let me make these a more comic booky type stroke, rather than like the stroke from that fat pencil that Procreate provides. And it always doesn't have to be this stroke as soon as you start. You can always go back and fix the stroke and make it look like a stroke rather than achieving the stroke from the start. It's just little tricks and everything. We always think it's one way, but as you do more and draw more and draw more and more and more, you get adept to doing things a certain way. So now I'm doing the background, and all this is framing for me. I love to frame my drawings. A lot of people like to draw backgrounds, but I find it too time consuming, and so all I do is outline my picture, put a white streak in the back, or I will put a circle in the back. And I just make sure to outline it all the way around. And all this is just, framing your pictures. You don't have to do this. To me, this is my thing. This is what I like doing. This is just something that, me being an artist, I like to actually just see my work framed. And to me, this is a digital way of framing my work. And also, it kind of gives my work a uniqueness to it. So I like doing it this way as well. But we're coming to the end of this video. Thank you for just watching, and I thank you for just checking my work out. Enjoy the video, and if you have any comments, just let me know. Thanks.